Okay, well, let's go ahead and start. And I know others may trickle in while we're here, but I think, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I think we'll probably plan on concluding closer to 2:50 or so, or sorry, 50 past the hour. I'm in Central Time. I know a lot of people are everywhere, but Eastern Time. So I'm going to put the entire slide deck in the chat so that you have it. It's a Google Drive link. We'll go through everything together, of course, but there's a lot of click-through links that are tangible resources for this session today. So I wanted you to have it in case you'd like to click along the links instead of me having to send each link individually. The most important time-sensitive one, which I will also send separately, is the note catcher. So I'm about to drop that link in here as well. It's a Google Doc. And I just ask that you, of course, please make a copy of this Google Doc. And before I give an overview of what today's session is acutely focused on, one thing I try to always do as a presenter in different spaces is make sure that people are able to walk away from a session with something tangible, something you can implement right away, today, tomorrow, next month, sometime this school year in your own setting, whether you be a school leader or a district personnel. I want to make sure that it's not just philosophical, but very, very practical. So if you look at the session, I'm pulling it up here and I'll share my screen now. Let me just make sure I have the right slide. Here we go. Okay, thumbs up if you can see the title slide here. Yep, okay, good. So I've done different versions of this session. One really data-heavy version of this session, which sadly we don't have the time for today, goes way beyond everything we're going to talk about and builds the skills for utilizing the data that we're going to be talking about today, utilizing the strategies in a very hyper technical way, merging data sets, creating custom mail merged reports. And if you're ever interested in that, reach out to me. I love to collaborate with folks on what some of that looks like. Your district or setting you may work in may have things like that, but this gives all of the creative control to you using the skills that I teach. It's just, the way I do it, it takes 2 to 3 hours to teach some of the teaching you to fish, so to speak. So you're not just eating the fish, you're able to do it sustainably for the future. For today's session, we're going to talk about this pervasive issue that I think every school in the country is facing in some ways, is issues of chronic absenteeism, attendance-related issues. I mean, I think we all probably had some frustrations and lamentations and wonderings and strategic plans around attendance before the pandemic, but I think every school in the country is probably facing an even more challenging uphill battle post-pandemic. And I've visited schools in other countries and I see the same there. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to talk about it through the lens of data. This is not just another webinar on chronic absenteeism. We are, all of us, practitioners in some ways. I'm a school principal here in Chicago. I'll tell you a little bit more about my school in a moment. But I like to think, those of us that are in the trenches, in schools, in districts, we are doing this work every day. We're experiencing it. We have very concrete examples, and we're going to talk about some of those today. So if you haven't yet, pull up the note catcher, make your own copy so that you can create your own actionable plan coming out of today's session that hopefully helps improve some aspect of chronic absenteeism and attendance in your school. So why this topic? I mean, we already mentioned it's such a pervasive issue. It's like one of the hottest button issues in our schooling system right now. But I like to use the philosophy, like, we can't teach a student if they're not here. It's kind of a non-negotiable in some ways. I don't strive for perfect attendance in my school, and nor should we anywhere, because we don't want kids to come, especially this time of year, come to school sick and then infect others. But that's my overarching philosophy as to why it's important. And I say that to families all the time. A mentor of mine always talks to me about the structure and the intervention. We talk about all these things with attendance, home visits and attendance plans and attendance phone calls. Those are necessary. We do those. I try to be very strategic with them, but those are structures, not interventions. And we're going to hit on interventions today too, because we're trying to change habits and change practices. And that goes beyond the doc